This tape is produced by the Jericho and Eagle Lake Railroad Public Relations Department. It's intermission, and we will next visit Pretty, Texas could hardly be considered a big town, but it's home to one of the largest 1.5-inch scale railroads in the country. Pretty is about 125 miles southwest of Fort Worth, and the railroad is about 5 miles east of Pretty. It's paved road until we turn onto a dirt road now, and we're coming to a water crossing. We're almost to the gate. The engine on the fence post is the only sign that we're close to the railroad. Now we'll cross a cattle guard because this is cattle country, and we have a caboose on a siding that shows we're nearing the headquarters. Now, Roy has invited moguls, wheelers, and dealers of various railroads around the country to join in a meeting with him in October of '89. Now, we're approaching the headquarters building, and I must warn you that Roy has a glint in his eye, and anyone who would wear a derby hat and strange clothes to fire an engine must be suspect.
Hi, Jerry. You come to see those feeble-minded railroad freaks?
Oh, yeah. I'm glad to be here.
Good. We're glad to have you. Now, if you want to eat, the director of dining car services wants you to sign up over here. I think we've got about 29 signed up already.
Hey, that sounds like a good group. You got a lot of trailers here today.
Yeah, I believe this is the largest crowd of campers we've had so far. We've got them from as far as Florida to California. Would you like to walk down to the Comanche Yard?
Yeah, sure would.
Okay. Comanche Yard. This is where it all started. Okay. Moved out here in '72, and took me about a year to survey a site and figure out where I was going to put the railroad. And we started out from here, building west. Yard. This is the eastern terminal. Turntable, watering facilities up there. You make up a train here and leave out westbound. Go across the Mississippi Bridge, through Helper. This is where we put the Helper engines on to climb the hill if they need it. Climb up the hill through the cut, around through Lennis, and on up the hill till we get to Zuni in Tower 17. And that's where the dispatcher's office is. This is a point-to-point railroad, so we have to have a dispatcher up in the tower, and he talks to the engineers at each one wears a radio, tells them where to set up the meets for the opposing traffic. And from Zuni here, this is the racetrack, they call it. Almost straight and level piece of track till we get down to Maximilian. That's the first passing siding west of Zuni. Then we'll wind around here and go through Mexican Hat.
Isn't Mexican Hat where you have the rock loading facility?
We have a rock bunker up there that we can load the hopper cars with ballast. That's kind of a popular place. They seem to like to be able to pull those rock cars. You go upgrade through Tehachapi, and turn back, go through a shallow cut, and then it's downgrade through Anasazi and Godibo. You kind of flatten out, and into West Junction, and around this return loop and into the west yards at Springerville. That's the west end of the railroad. We also have turntable at the west yard if you want to turn and go back out the way you came, or you can run through and come on back out same direction.
How long is the railroad?
At the present time, it's a little over 6,000 feet. And if and when I ever get this lower loop completed, it will be right at 7,200 feet. That's main line.
Well, then on point to point, from the time we leave Comanche Yard until we get back, we must travel about 2¼ miles.
Just about. And at a nice, comfortable speed, it takes about 40 minutes to make the trip.
Yard, of course. Engines and cabooses are turned at the Comanche Yard turntable, and the turntable is the easiest turning table that I have seen.
I went on that one.
The yard crew talks shop when there's nothing to do. They finally discovered I'm filming them.
They have to come to the Medina Valley Southern to see what we're talking about. We're talking about putting in a new turntable.
You need one down there.
Yeah, plus maybe even a little more, you can't tell. But it wouldn't take long if we can stockpile it, where you can dig it easy, where we all three keep going there. This roughly, now this, you know, the fine grading, you know, is what takes more time. But if you wanted us to get, if we get so close, then you could let us go. And it ain't gonna take 2 days with the dozer.
I don't believe we'll either.
But then it might take 3 with the dump truck.
But my dozer experience is about 2 hours long, so
Well, probably, of course, you know, rock can, well, you know, that rock can get pretty hard, but the time we sort of shoot and cut, actually, a good day probably with the dozer, you could probably nearly turn it loose.
This is part of the cut that's needed for the balloon loop at the Comanche Yard. Roy's been digging on this for some time now. Now he's just been talking about bringing a little heavier equipment in to complete this. I'm going to walk around the right-of-way and we can see how much he's done so far. In this country, you have to watch where you're stepping. Those needles are sharp. Now we're 1/3 of the way around, and Roy has been digging on this for some time. Roy has a steel bridge in place, and as you can see, quite a bit of fill will be needed here. And return to Comanche Yard.
Okay.
The president of the railroad is getting his orders from the head of the board.
24. CP, Roger wants to take 38, 10 around one more time, okay? Are you okay? Say no good miles. Ride call on the ground no more. He says go to June. 4147 in the yard.
Fred Springer is acting dispatcher at the present, and besides his duties on the radio, he must control the pneumatic operated switches in the yard.
Gate 10, 2414 may proceed to Comanche.
He'd be lucky to get his engine back in one piece.
You moving? Roger, that's what your orders were. I'm just looking for you, all. Okay, I acknowledge I must have gotten this. That's it, but I must have been in a dead spot. Mighty fine.
Right there.
6988, you copy? 6988. You're clip. Do you read me 6988? Robbie, you are clear to...
Harry Hawes of Tehachapi, California, has just come off the turntable and will be backing down to pick up his train. Indian Gap consists of a hydraulic operated turntable, 7 steaming bays, and of course the storage tracks going into the engine house. Tom Stamey is firing up his 10-wheeler, and John Enders is firing up his engine this Saturday morning. Roy Pickard flies this flag during his meets. Of course, nobody knows who he cheers for during football season. Now, there are 4 bridges on the railroad, with the 5th being added onto the new loop. Roy walking across the bridge. Roy, how long is Mississippi Bridge?
It's just a tad over 100 feet. There's
And-
four 25-foot spans, and of course there's a little bit of expansion joined in between each span. So it's just a little over 100 feet.
These are all welded steel, aren't they?
Yes.
What are they, oil well pipe or what?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to try and take a long shot of this. It was impossible to take a long shot of this bridge with the vegetation in the gap, so we're going to take individual sections. As Roy said, these are welded steel bridges. This is the bridge over Helper, part of the Tehachapi Loop. Due to the grade up the loop, there is a spur for a Helper engine at Helper. Roy moved a lot of earth to make this loop. Tom Stamey running downhill in the loop. Of course, there's a lot of work to keep this cut clear from cave-ins. Roy is protecting the track from Indian Gap, which is just to the right of the cut, using a rock embankment. Some more of the loop with the electric fence to keep cattle off the track. It has mileage markers along the layout. These are the number of feet from the west yard. This is taken at Lennis. Away has spurs at each of the sidings. Recently, Roy started a waybill operation, and you wouldn't believe the confusion. And we're back at the steel bridge over Helper. Now it's a tough grade from Comanche to Zuni. Yesterday we had a fire, apparently from a blasting, or is that blasted steam engine. Luckily, Roy had made a fire break so that it didn't go too far. This is dry country, and the prairie grass with a little wind can really go. There's a long train coming up grade. Leaving Zuni, heading for Maximilian. This is the straightaway, the racetrack. We're going to have a meet at Maximilian Siding. This is Medicine Hat, our rock loading siding, and we're now headed for Tehachapi. Now the water tank at Tehachapi is for emergency use only. The tank has to be hand filled. We're now coming out onto the desert, and our next stop will be Anasazi. Desert. Talk of the Anasazi sighting. This is Springerville and the West Yard. And this completes the balloon loop around Springerville, and we're now heading for Godibo, eastbound. Another meet at Anasazi sighting. Here's Tehachapi sighting again. You know, it was 3 days before I could pronounce the word, and I still can't spell it. The trestles at Tehachapi are not wood bents, they're actually welded steel. Roy doesn't have to worry about these rotting. We'll go down and take a closer look at Medicine Hat. Trucks dump the gravel, and then a front-end loader picks up the gravel and takes it to the bunker. From there, it is gravity fed into the hopper cars. Roy builds most of his own cars, so it's not too surprising to see some out-of-service cars laying around. This is a working bunker. We have side dump hoppers as well as bottom dump hoppers. On hopper car shows the mechanism. There's a lot of work that's been started at Mexican Hat. Just a few feet off of the right-of-way, cattle are moving. Now looks like at least partial Brahma in the lead. They're probably looking for a little shade. It's beginning to get warm out here. Between Mexican Hat and Maximilian is this trestle. It was a slow order on the trestle until this year when some work was done, and we can now go through at speed. As are the others, the trestle is made of steel except for the ties and the walkways. It's Tweety on his engine, entering Maximilian Siding. Well, we've walked along the right-of-way for quite some time, kicking the rocks off the ties, and I'm getting tired and it's hot, and I'm going up there and sit down in the shade and relax for a while. Here at Maximilian Siding is one of the few places you can see another part of the railroad. Roy has done a good job of hiding one piece of track from another. This is actually the start of the balloon loop going into the West Yard. John Enders is trying out his engine, giving it a good workout on the hill into Zuni. That's a pretty fair load he's got on there. We're back at Indian Gap, and that adapter at the end of the turntable is one of the nicest things I've seen.
I don't know whether I can let it down there or not. Might get fairly clear.
Well, put it in the clear and then I'll line it.
Let's let her down and see what it looks like.
This has to be the shortest passenger car in captivity. Lauren Jennings of Godibo, Oklahoma, is the operator. When Roy wants a cut, he gets big machinery.
Hey, think he's disturbing any of the snakes?
We ran her some old television. They said,
Sit down there and just like, that lady is the best actress I ever.
It's dinner time, and we're sitting under the trees waiting for it to be served.
He's,
We're waiting for the chili to get hot.
Get that in perspective.
But we can, some of it,
It's
but
like
what
a-
we did
bad.
Loretta Lynn.
Now, we didn't get to go
And
there.
it's getting closer.
Where was that?
2 hours to Everett.
Look, everybody get in line before John gets here. Let Tom have the original, because I think he read it much better than me, but I'd like a
Well, I told him we'd take it home.
okay,
And then
that
send
is
it
the
to
original.
him.
Okay,
I thought it's nothing more than
John
that.
after his last.
Dinner is finally served.
I'll take it home then.
It's Sunday afternoon. Tower 17 is silent, and the steaming bays are empty. Most of our guests from Florida and California, and of course north to Illinois, left Friday or Saturday. Now you probably think that this was because of the long distance they had to travel. But remember, I told you about that twinkle in Roy's eye? There's been some suspicious rumors of ticks, rattlesnakes, and other nasty critters that might have hastened their departure. So ends the October 1989 meet at the Comanche and Indian Gap Railroad. Oh, there is one more guest saying his goodbyes. Maybe we can watch that. They're discussing a new car that Roy is making.
And I think by using different diameter dowels.
We are in the shop where Roy makes his wooden cars. That car end is all wood. It's a MKT automobile car that he's making, and Marilyn has done the stenciling or lettering on the sides.
Those last cars that he sent Fred down here, he used a great big old thick dowel, and there's about 5 or 6 of them down the whole length. Now this is prototype according to the plans I've got.
Well, might not break it, but it sure might in it, but that's good. Put those in a wood mill and lay them out at, what, half-inch stock?
I believe 5/8.
5/8? Yeah. And you mill down both sides to get your Z-brace.
Well, I'm not gonna cut the door open on this opening on this. Guys from Chicago, and they ain't quit yet. I mean, they just going from the time they hit here in the morning till they leave at night, and they just trotted me to death, being a gopher for them. I tell you what, we're just tickled to death y'all came.
Is that for the camera?
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
that was not for the camera. That's old, since
How come you didn't wear your red-nosed hat?
I never did fire 75. They never would let me get close enough to build fire in that thing down there. It was always, hey, I need something over here. Oh.
Roy's got a war bonnet hat. It's the prettiest thing you ever saw. Yeah,
I'm gonna wear that to. I'm gonna take that to New Zealand.
to New Zealand.
You betcha. I'm gonna get off the airplane with it.
We'll see.
Y'all have a safe trip home.
All right.
You're wasting film.
Not me.